welcome in to the PFF NFL betting show for week 9. To my right, Ben Linsey. Joining us remotely, Judah Fort Gang. I'm Mason Cameron. Boys, we already had it was a start to the week. The Ravens coming out, really putting it on the Dolphins. Ben, what did you make of that matchup last night?
Yeah, honestly, the first half, the Dolphins probably should have been winning that game. Like they were moving the ball better than the Ravens. You had the fumble by Malik Washington inside their own red zone. You had the false start into missed field goal. Just a lot of self-inflicted errors from the Dolphins early in that game. And then once we got to the second half, it just the Ravens kind of leaned on them a little bit with the run game, and the Dolphins couldn't do anything. So, honestly, probably more competitive than the final score would indicate, at least through a lot of this game. But yeah, the Ravens all of a sudden are staring down a real chance at the AFC North after their start to the season.
Yeah, it's incredible for them to come out and cover -7.5 on the road. I mean, I was a little bit shocked, to be honest. I thought that the Dolphins were going to be able to get a little bit going offensively, and they just really couldn't. They could not get their bearings, but it did look like they were more competitive at very many points, especially early on in the game. But like you said, a lot of self-inflicted wounds. Judah, did you see anything noteworthy in this one that is sort of tipping your hand? Are you going to be in on any Ravens plays from here on out, or what are you thinking about with this matchup?
Yeah, I think this was kind of a massive sell of the Ravens. To Ben's point, I think this game could have gone very, very differently. A ton of high leverage plays that went in Baltimore's way, and like Tua had, I think, some of his best passing numbers of the season. Granted, there were a lot of those attempts there, but even in the first half, like the Ravens defense was getting shredded. I don't think Lamar Jackson's at 100%. There was even a scramble. I think it was like the third quarter. Jackson gained 13, and if he's at full strength there, that's going the distance. Concerned even like how the running game is going before the game state got a little bit out of control against what's been a disaster of a Dolphins defense. I'd be concerned if I were the Ravens, but as Ben said, they're in a kind of a disaster of an AFC North, somehow still alive. And look, we should have a strong prior that this is still a Ravens team that's probably going to be better than anyone else, but in the division. But look, there are signs of concern, and the defense is one I'm definitely going to be looking to attack in props and SGP markets going forward.
Yeah, definitely makes some sense there. I actually was in on the over here, and like I said, I thought we were going to see a little bit more from that Dolphins team. But as you said, some high leverage plays there. I spoke on the Thursday night betting preview about the under on Lamar's rushing attempts, and that was another big reason. I don't quite think he's fully healthy, and like you said, on that pretty long run there, he did get up a little bit gingerly, and I thought, I kind of hope that he didn't re-aggravate that injury there. But you could tell sort of by the play calling too. Dalton and I were watching that game together, and when we were talking about it, you could tell that the play calling sort of felt like they were trying to protect him and not really put him into too many situations where he did have to move, sort of get the ball out a little bit quicker. So that was definitely an interesting one. And for anybody who is interested in the grades for that one, make sure you guys go hit up your own PFF Plus subscription. The grades for that one, I don't believe they're live quite yet, but they should be live here very, very soon. So make sure you get in on that before they go live. And then also make sure you guys download the PFF Plus app. That's how you get all of the data trusted by all 32 NFL teams, and you can get access to our PFF player prop tool in there. And a little note for you guys. To get an extra 25% off, use the promo code PFF NFL Show 25. And a reminder to the chat, go use the PFF player prop tool and then jump into the chat and give us your best player props for the week. At the end of the show, we'll parlay them together, our 3 favorites, and put in a little parlay. Winnings are going to go to charity for that one. And we're still on the hunt for our first chat winners. So make sure you guys go get your good ones in on that note. Boys, we have some pretty good games on the schedule this week. Let's just get it right out of the way. And I'm sorry, Ben, but I love Judah's pick this week, and I want to talk about this one. So we're going to head right into Judah. Give us your game market bet for the week and what you're seeing.
Yeah, I mean, this is a spot where Indianapolis, I think, is primed for success, both in terms of, I mean, I want to say the rushing attack and the passing attack. This offense has been dominant kind of from day one here in the season. And you want to look at any kind of offensive efficiency metric, and it's going to reveal a story of the Colts being probably the best offense in the NFL right now. And I think they kind of have a terrific matchup against a Pittsburgh team which plays a ton of man coverage. And right now, all of their cornerbacks are bottom 30 in separation prevented. If you want to look at Alec Pierce, Michael Pittman, Josh Downs, these are all guys who are well above average separating against man coverage, all well above average in yards per run. Daniel Jones has been dominant against man coverage. He's been dominant. I mean, he's been dominant everywhere. But this is a Pittsburgh rush defense, which has struggled. Jonathan Taylor obviously has kind of been going off every game. It's a spot where I think the Colts should thoroughly dominate, and there's nothing kind of on the other side of the ball with the Pittsburgh offense, which kind of works very methodically. Ton of quick passes. They lead the NFL in quick passes at like 57%. It's a spot where I think the Colts should be able to kind of steamroll Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree here, and I'll jump into a same game parlay that I have here in a second. But wow, this Colts offense is incredibly efficient. I've never quite seen a team that is as efficiently run as they are. It just feels like every time they touch the ball, jokingly, I know Dalton and Trevor, they call it the perfect season, but I mean, I swear, every time they touch the ball, there's a chance that this thing is coming away with points, or more than a chance. It's like a certainty that this thing's coming away with points. I didn't get a chance to look it up before the show, but I remember coming into last week, I was looking at EPA per rush for all these teams in the NFL. And generally the way, for anybody that doesn't quite know, but generally your EPA per rush is going to be a little bit lower. It's sometimes more on the leaning on the negative side. It just passing is usually just a little bit more efficient and leads to higher EPA numbers. But what we've seen is with this team, they're so efficient running the ball. They're first in EPA per rush, but they're so good at running the ball that they are better than it was 21, 22 teams in passing EPA, which is just unheard of. It's absolutely unreal how good they are running the ball. And then, like you just said, that's not their only tool in the basket. They also throw the ball as good as anybody in the league, and I'm actually going to be in on some same game parlays there too. And Ben, I want to get your take on this team and this matchup and what we're seeing from what they're going to see against the Steelers. Do you see anything in that one?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on the Colts as well. I'm on the Colts paired with the over. Kind of the same type of deal last week with the Packers. This Steelers offense is not the issue with this team right now. This is the best offense they've had since before the Roethlisberger decline. But going into last week, they were top 10 in EPA per play. And this is a Colts defense that, with some of the injuries in the secondary, is gettable, right? This is a worse defense than the Packers defense they saw last week. That being said, the Colts can put up 40 points in this matchup. Shane Steichen has had a lot of success the last couple of years against Pittsburgh. The Colts won each of the last 2 years against Pittsburgh. They put up 27 points in both games, and at least 27 points in both those games. And these offenses weren't as good as this year's offense. You talked about the run game. They're also pretty high pass rate over expected. They're building a lot of these leads through the passing game. And this is a Steelers defense, the coverage on the back end, especially if they're going to play man coverage against guys like Alec Pierce, who has shown an ability to win downfield. Against Tyler Warren, Steelers have struggled to cover tight ends. We saw that last week with Tucker Kraft. This is a spot where I'm finding it difficult for Pittsburgh to be able to stop the Colts consistently. It seems like they still think the issue is run defense. They go out and trade for Kyle Duggar, who's a big run defending safety, when really the issue is Darius Slade, Jalen Ramsey. These guys are just losing on the back end and giving up a lot of separation.
Yeah, and that's a great lead into where I'm going to be attacking with my same game parlay this week. I'm calling this one the Pierce the Veil parlay. You guys get it? Because it's like the steel curtain, and I'm taking Alec Pierce. So sorry, that's a good one. At least I didn't.
I'll have to start naming my parlays.
I like that, right? Yeah, we're gonna start naming them. I didn't get any boos from the back room there, so I think that one's a winner. So we're good in that department. But I'm in on this game as well, and I've got a little 38-1 parlay here where we're gonna be taking Indy. Moved a little bit, -6.5, which I'm liking. As we've stated, they're building these leads through the passing game and then running the ball down teams' throats so that they can't answer. And it's really just been a great success. They're a 67% cover rate on the road. They're covering road games at an average margin of 9.3 points. So I'm really liking that. I'm also taking Alec Pierce to go over 100 and to score a touchdown here. And it's a big thing of, like you said, the Pittsburgh coverage on the back end is just struggling. And this is really a tailor-made matchup for Alec Pierce, to have a big breakout game right here. 41% man coverage rate, 65.8% closed coverages. Those are things that Alec Pierce absolutely excels in. When we look at some of his numbers versus man, 78.9 receiving grade, 2.6 yards per route run, 28.2% target rate, a pair of explosive plays, 20.9 average depth of target. And then it's the same story when he sees close coverages. 90.2 receiving grade, 3.99 yards per route run, a 31% target rate, 7 explosive plays. Like, these are the looks where when the Colts see these looks, this is the guy that they look to take the top off the defense and get explosive plays from. And, all of those numbers were either best on the Colts or second on the Colts in pretty much every metric. So I really like what Alec Pierce can do in that one. And Pittsburgh has they've given up a ton of production to downfield threats this year. They're 28th in explosive pass play percentage allowed. They've allowed 8 receivers to go over 80 yards this season and 4 of them to go for 100 plus. Pierce hasn't hit 100 plus yet this year, but we know he's capable. We've seen him be able to do that. He had 3 games of 120 plus last season. He notched 7 touchdowns, and I think that this is going to be the week that he really has a big game and explodes. So I'm loving the Colts in this one as well. But that is going to lead us into, Ben, give us your game market bet of the week. I really like your angle here from what I'm seeing on the notes. Tell us what you're targeting.
Yeah, I'm going to pick on this Bengals defense with the Bears over 26.5 team total at plus 110. And if you just look as basic analysis as you can get, just the points scored against this Bengals defense by week. Week 1 against Cleveland, they gave up 16. Every other game this season, they've given up at least 27, including 39 last week to the New York Jets. I'll repeat, 39 to the New York Jets. Without Garrett Wilson, without Josh Reynolds. This Bengals defense is just rough, right? And I think we've seen the Bears run game improve coming out of their bye. That was something that was an issue early in the season. You look at the 3 weeks since the bye, they're 4th in EPA per run play. I know you've got some injuries at running back. DeAndre Swift hasn't been practicing Wednesday, Thursday this week. Roshan Johnson hasn't been practicing Wednesday, Thursday this week. But they still have Kyle Monangai. I still think they can have success on the ground. We've seen that consistently against the Bengals this year. The other thing the Bears passing game has done pretty well is generate yards after the catch. They're 5th in yards after the catch per reception this year. The Bengals are 31st in yards after the catch allowed per reception. All right, so some of the Bears' strengths, yes, there's weaknesses. Caleb Williams in that Ravens game, not great. When we just saw Tua put up 280 yards, I know Williams did as well, but some big mistakes in that game. So there's still some issues, but I think the Bears have enough talent to put up a lot of points against a really bad defense here in Cincinnati.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you there. A little bit of a rough go for them for the Bears last week against the Ravens, but to be frank, there were times where they did look competitive, and it looked like they kind of just shot themselves in the foot at certain times. So I'm with you there too. Are you seeing anything on that one, on Judah? What's your general take with what we're seeing out of this Bears offense? Do you think Ben Johnson is really going to be able to come up with these answers? Do you think maybe Caleb Williams is maybe not the guy, or do you think that he could figure it out? What's your take on what we're seeing with the Bears or even the Bengals?
Well, we can tell you what they're not is like Caleb Williams, Ben Johnson, like top 10 offense and like auto kind of plug in. Like that's just not the case. I think we have enough data to kind of effectively rule that out. Or I think there's a very low probability of that happening. I think they're going to be somewhere in this bucket of like mediocrity of like some games they'll be able to put up points and looking ahead to certain seasons, it's like, the sense I get is this is like a Bears offense, which is going to fluctuate between like the 12th and 23rd best in the NFL, like somewhere kind of in that range. I think Ben's absolutely right, both to point out how bad the Bengals defense is and not to take the spread here because, kind of what we can say about the Bengals defense, we can say about the Bears defense right now, given all the injuries.
That's why I didn't take the spread.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. I like the actual kind of thesis to market play there. I mean, Snoop Huntley looked like a top 5 quarterback last week, which I think is pretty surprising. But yeah, this is not a Bears offense that I'm overly bullish on and probably disappointed from kind of my offseason prior.
Yeah, it's definitely. I thought they were going to be, much more improved, especially getting Ben Johnson in there. I thought they were going to get the run game going, and they have a little bit. But it is those games like last week where you're thinking, hey, no Lamar, a suspect defense for the Ravens. Like let's go out there and get this win, especially given how sort of well they'd played or close games they'd come out on top as of recently. That's a little bit disappointing, but there is some hope that I think that eventually they will sort of build those blocks up. But I think you're right. You hit the nail on the head, is that to pencil them in as like a top 10 offense is probably just not going to happen. But when you do get matchups like this against a really porous Bengals defense, I think I love the play there too as well. I like the target. It just makes too much sense, especially with the sky high over at 52. It's a pretty large one there.
Bonus for this: Kyle Monangai rushing plus receiving. If DeAndre Swift gets ruled out and Roschon Johnson gets ruled out, he's basically, I don't even know who the other running back would be that would be backing up Monangai. But this is an awesome running back matchup, both rushing and receiving. Also like some DJ Moore rushing props if that is the case, because they've used him as a running back in the backfield, and if they're thin, I imagine they will in this spot.
Love it. Boys, we got another game that I just love this one. I know that these are all games that Judah, when we wrote the lines to sort of target early on in the week before they move, this is one that I looked at. It's moved a point since we talked about that one when it was at -4.5, but I am taking New England at -5.5 at home against the Falcons here. And I mean, what can we say about New England? They've just been absolutely cruising. 5 straight wins, 5 straight covers. They're 4-1 against the spread as favorites this season, and that includes 3 covers when they're favored by 5 or more points. And I mean, we talked about it a little bit last week, but Drake May, he just keeps adding to his, MVP case. He has the highest passing grade in the NFL since week 4 at 90.4. And over that span, the Pats have generated the highest EPA per dropback and highest explosive pass percentage. And I really think that this matchup cues well to May's strengths. When we talk about what Atlanta does a lot in coverage, they're top 5. May is top 5 in passing grade versus single high coverages and blitzes. Those are both things that Atlanta do at a very high rate. They're the highest in one high percentage, and they're the second highest in pass blitz rate. So this is going to be a situation where I think May can actually thrive against a defense that's looked relatively decent in a lot of sort of efficiency metrics against the pass, at least in EPA per play and things like that. But the big thing that I think is going to separate why this team, and it looks like the line's moved even a little bit further to -6, and I still kind of like it in that range too. But one of the big things that I do love about what this Pats team can effectively do this week against this Falcons team is that they've been looking better on the ground a little bit over the last few weeks. They've started to get it going, and they're 12th in rushing success rate over their last 2 games. That's up from 25th over the first 6 weeks. Now, not really the biggest jump, but it's an improvement in every little bit, especially when you're throwing the ball like they are. It's going to be a nice add to that. And this can be a place that the Pats really attack this Falcons defense, who's bottom 8 in team run defense grade, EPA per rush allowed, rushing success rate, and they're dead last in percentage of runs giving up positive EPA. No Ramondre Stevenson likely this week. It looks like he's probably going to be out. I think he had a couple of DNPs to start the week. So I mean, you can fire up your Travion Henderson shares, and I really like the potential of him as a back. And it's been a little bit frustrating to not see them use him more, but this might be the week to fire him up and have him sort of go off and explode against this Falcons defense. And when we talk about this Falcons team, they're not going to look as bad as they did last week. That's sort of a function of Kirk Cousins and not quite a function of this offense as a whole. They're getting Michael Penix Jr. back, Drake London. But this is also the thing. This is something that we've talked about a little bit as well, Ben. This team just has some issues on the road. This is the same team that scored 10 against San Francisco. Burned me pretty bad on that same game parlay that I really thought they were going to, take advantage of that San Francisco defense. And then, this is the same team that got shut out against Carolina. So when you get shut out against Carolina on the road, like Carolina, they were playing well, but 0 points. Like the alarm bells start ringing at that point. When you start having this consistency of really struggling on the road, they're 17.1 points per game on the road, minus 0.155 EPA per play on the road. And the Pats are holding teams to the 5th lowest touchdown drive percentage. Only 1 in 6 teams have allowed under 20% in that regard. So I think they're still going to have some trouble moving the ball. I know that they're getting Penix back. I know they're getting Drake London back, but it doesn't really scare me. And then another big reason why is because New England is so strong against the run. They're top 10 in team run defense grade, EPA per rush allowed, rushing success rate, yards per carry. All of these numbers are indicative of what we're going to see out of a team like Atlanta, who, when they can't run the ball, they don't win games. When they can't stay balanced and they can't run the ball, they just do not function very well. And New England has not allowed a positive rushing EPA day to any team this season, and Atlanta has only won or covered a single game when they have negative EPA per rush, and that was the Commanders game where they really just were able to throw the ball around and torch that defense on the back end. I know New England has some issues in coverage, but again, they've started to look a little bit better over this run that they've been having. Granted, it came against some more suspect quarterback teams and some teams that aren't really the greatest at passing, but they're 7th in EPA per dropback over this span, 12th in passing yards per attempt. And, like I said, I don't think that this team is going to – the Falcons are going to be a little bit more improved with Penix, but again, I really don't think that that's the – end-all, be-all answer. If you even throw out that game last week, they're still 20th in EPA per dropback, which I think is going to be, a big make or break in this one. I like the Pats to cover. Ben, are you seeing anything else in this matchup that I might have missed?
No, I think you hit it pretty well. My biggest concern is the run game stuff you mentioned with Atlanta. You go back a couple weeks ago against Buffalo, it's like Bijan Robinson's going to win Offensive Player of the Year. He's the best player in football. They're running the ball all over the Bills. And then the last 2 weeks, against lesser run defenses in San Francisco and Miami, they've not been able to run the football, right? And this is a very good Patriots run defense. I've kind of tried to play that angle multiple times this year. And if the Falcons want to run the ball, like if you're holding them to 2-3 yards a carry and you're getting them into 3rd and longs, like that's not a spot where I have a lot of faith in this Falcons passing offense, right? And then on the other side, yes, I think the Falcons defense has a chance to be a little bit healthier. Right? Jesse Bates was limited. Jalen Walker and Billy Bowman came back to practice. They've missed the last couple weeks. Zach Harrison is day-to-day. He's been a key piece on their D-line. Like, there's a chance that some of these guys come back and they look a little bit better on the defensive side. But I would still lean New England at this number.
The thing Mason and I would highlight here is that, obviously Drake May has been unbelievable. We talked about this a month ago. Kind of like flag planting where May's gone, but like he also is having a historically good deep season. He's generated like 60 expected points from deep passes, which is truly unbelievable, and a 1.8 deep EPA, which like usually the best in the league is like 1.2. Like he's having an unbelievable season. And as Ben mentioned, this is a defense that's getting healthy and is also doing a really good job defending against the explosive plays. The Drake May, like no one's going, like no matter how good you are, you're not going to be able to sustain the deep level of success. And that isn't to say, in one particular game that's going to be true. I think that's more to kind of over the second half of the season, we'll probably see that number regress. But this is an Atlanta team that's done a great job limiting explosives. And I'm a little bit concerned about New England's ability to sustain drives if they're not hitting on those, certainly given the state of where the rushing offense has been all season. That's kind of my only counter, which is that like this is a lot of points for a New England team, and the secondary is still struggling a bit. Where like I do think there's a path where Atlanta moves the ball, but I certainly am not betting Atlanta.
Yeah. I mean, if you just compare it, like they were 7-point favorites against the Browns last week. So it's like Atlanta's getting 1 point against the Browns, which to your point, that difference should probably be bigger.
Yeah, undoubtedly. So I like where we're headed though, boys. We can jump into our player props as well here. I really like the angle that you're taking on your player prop here also, Ben. And for everybody at home, make sure you guys go get the PFF Plus app. That's how you can get access to the PFF player prop tool. It's an awesome tool. It's giving you a lot of insight, a lot of data, things like cover probability, edge percentage, expected value, trends, and matchup data. So make sure you guys go and hit that up. Ben, why don't you take us through what player prop you're targeting this week?
Yeah, I'm buying into the hype. I'm buying into the coach speak, the post-bye rookie bump. Travis Hunter over 46.5 receiving yards, -110. And a little bit concerning that he popped up on the injury report Thursday with limited practice with a knee injury out of nowhere. But I'm assuming he's playing. He has lines out. And I just think this number in this matchup with kind of the trajectory of where he's going on offense, it's just too low. You look at the Raiders. If you just look at separation grades for cornerback units, they're 30th in the NFL through the first 8 weeks of the season. They've struggled to stick with wide receivers. And Travis Hunter's role is growing. You just look at week 6 and 7 before the week 8 bye for Jacksonville. He ran 95 routes. That was more than any other wide receiver in the NFL. And there's a lot of talk about him, had his biggest game of the season against the Rams, about him needing to be kind of the primary read. They've been throwing it to him more downfield, where early in the season it was a lot of these screens and get the ball to him in space. They're still doing some of that. They should. Like he's had multiple plays where he's making a guy miss in the open field and picking up 11, 12 yards for a first down. But if he also adds in some more downfield stuff against the Raiders secondary that is giving up separation downfield, and we saw the success that Hunter can have, and we've seen Brian Thomas struggle at the catch point consistently for the whole first half of the season. So I think this is a potential way for Hunter to build on what he showed in that kind of blowout Europe game against the Rams.
Yep. Walt likes it in the chat, says 46.5 yards, that's nothing. Judah, what are you seeing in this one? I know we talked a little bit about this Jags team a little bit before. Are you seeing another indication? Are you agreeing with Ben here, or what are you seeing on that?
Yeah, I think it's a good shout. And I do think there's something to be said about them, not just like talking about getting him more involved, but like he's played a ton. So, the revealed preference matches the stated preference here. And just looking at the passing offense, I think this is a great spot. Vegas has been a pass funnel defense all year. They've been very good against the run. Lawrence, I think they've kind of let him rip it basically all season, despite his struggles. I think like from a volume perspective, I think it's going to be there. And if you're the number one offense, I even was toying with taking Trevor Lawrence overs for my prop of the week. I think this is a spot where Jacksonville and the passing offense should have a lot of success. That, as Ben mentioned, is going up against a really terrible Raiders secondary.
Yep, I like that. And we'll just jump in since you mentioned it. You were talking about a Trevor Lawrence potential prop for you. You went a little bit of a different route here from what I'm seeing. Why don't you tell us about what you're targeting on the prop market this week?
Yeah, going for the Jackson Dart over. I saw 209 was the number that I saw on DraftKings, putting this in the sheet. Yeah, I mean, like we've talked about this for a couple of weeks. It did not work out as well against Atlanta, but Ben was talking about this in Houston last week. This is a San Francisco defense that I don't think the market has caught up to them being terrible. I mean, like since Bosa and Warner, like these are two huge cogs on defense have been out. This defense is bottom 3 in EPA, bottom 4 in success rate, whatever metric you want to use. Like the stuff's going to fluctuate week to week. They've been atrocious on defense right now. And Jackson Dart, I think we also talked about this, like he's really developing pretty quickly into a good passer. I mean, his EPA is like 0.12. That's incredible for a rookie. PFF grade not far behind, and his ability to scramble and extend plays, I think also should kind of allow his receivers who, despite not being some of the biggest names here, like anyone can win if your quarterback is buying a ton of time. And I think it kind of mitigates some of the Giants' weakness at receiver. But all that is to say, like, you've got a quarterback who I think is going to drop back probably 35, 40 times. Yes, he runs plenty against a really, really, really terrible 49ers defense. And Jackson Dart has only gotten better. He's very, very aggressive. He's got one of the deepest ADOTs in the NFL. He's going to be looking downfield. You don't need to hit on many of those throws, which he is surely going to attempt to get over, but it's a very, very low number.
And as we saw when the guys flashed the trends, I mean, he's been right on the cusp of this number or over in pretty much every week. So, Ben, are you seeing sort of the same thing on that regard?
Yeah, that's my SGP is similar angle. So we can just jump into that. I talked about the Houston defense or the San Francisco defense last week with Stroud was my player prop. Unfortunately, I didn't go on Stroud alts. I only kept the 200.5, which he cleared by 100+ yards.
Cleared that in the first half.
You did talk me into a Stroud alt. I hit a nice 300 Texans spread, so I appreciate that.
At least someone profited from it. So my SGP for this Giants 49ers game is Dart 280+ passing, Wan'Dale Robinson 90+ receiving, Giants -7.5 at 70-1. And it's a lot of the same reasons I was on Stroud last week, right? This 49ers defense, since Bosa went down, has not been able to generate pressure. Bryce Huff, it looks like, is still going to be out for this week. If you just look since week 4, third lowest pressure rate in the NFL, 26%, ahead of only the Ravens and the Bengals. Dart, to Judah's points, has been playing well. Like, I've been impressed just watching Dart. He looks comfortable. And look, this was a Houston offense that had struggled to do anything passing the ball all season. And they were down Nico Collins, right? And they were shredding the 49ers. So, yes, this is a bad Giants receiving core. But the Wan'Dale piece of this specifically, the 49ers have really struggled to the slot. You're giving up 10.6 yards per slot target. That's worst in the NFL. Wan'Dale Robinson, we've seen have some spike games. Obviously the one with Russell Wilson against the Cowboys, but there's been some higher yardage games in recent weeks with Jackson Dart as well. And I think this is an excellent matchup for him, right? And you're competing with targets for Darius Slayton and Theo Johnson. The 49ers have actually done a pretty good job, like outside vertical throws. They haven't given up a ton. It's primarily been the middle of the field stuff against San Francisco, and I think that's where Wan'Dale Robinson works. I think there's a chance for him to put up a big game. And then on the other side, like, the Giants defense isn't great, but they do at least have a pass rush. Right, and we've seen the Niners offense struggle a little bit versus man coverage, which I think speaks to they've been beat up at wide receiver, right? They don't have the wide receivers. Yes, you get Kittle back. That helps a little bit, but it looks like Pearsall's probably still going to be out. Juwan Jennings is playing hurt for sure. right? He hasn't been as good as we saw at times last season. So yes, this is a very bad and beat up Giants secondary, and this is a Giants run defense that San Francisco might be able to take advantage of, but not if the Giants are jumping out to a big lead, which this kind of SGP hints at with the alt Giants spread. So I think big dart passing game to Wan'Dale Robinson. Giants win by over 1 score.
And I like your approach on that, because if you're sitting in that Giants, game plan meetings and you're going, okay, now we have to be competitive in games without Cam Skattebo, debatably one of the most electric running backs in the game, going down with that tough injury, they have to stay competitive. They can't afford to fall behind in a lot of these games if they want to win. So they really need to press the gas and go frame one and really stick it to teams if they want to try to, win some of these games here. And I agree. I think that's exactly how they're obviously going to have to do it with Dart throwing the ball over the middle. And really that's the only. It's going to be difficult for a 49ers team to win if they really do get behind in a game like this. If they get a lead, like you said, it is a little bit of a concern, especially how improved the 49ers looked with Kittle back running the football. They were a lot better. They were getting a lot more push off the ball. I mean, that guy loves to block. So it is a concern. But if you're in this Giants coaching staff, your game plan has to be pedal to the metal right out of the gate and take the running game off of the table for the 49ers. So I do like the story that you're telling with this SGP. So
yeah, and on the Cam Skattebo piece, Skattebo was great. Obviously, the injury is terrible and demoralizing, but Tyrone Tracy and Devin Singletary is not a bad 1-2 at running back. It's not like they don't have anything back there now. So maybe there's external team morale factors at play, because I know Skattebo and Dart together was kind of the face of that team, so losing a piece of that could have some effect. But I think in terms of hamstring this offense, I don't think it does necessarily.
It's also just the effect of Jackson Dart's rushing ability that's going to elevate the base rate of your success running the ball. Tyron Tracy was good last year.
Yeah.
So on to a little bit more of a somber young quarterback player prop for myself. I am heading over and I'm going to attack the under on J.J. McCarthy. This is not a terribly large number, and I'm still not really too afraid of it. 214.5 passing yards, and like I said, I'm going to be taking the under, and this is just not really the matchup that this kid wants to be coming back to after the injury, or as we all sort of know by now, it's the soft benching that he sort of had. And there's still these questions on the offensive line, and that's been a huge issue. It's not just at tackle where, both of these tackles have the potential to play. Brian O'Neill might have re-aggravated that MCL. He's been limited in both practices to start the week after missing last week. It's going to be an interesting thing to see. Dershaw played 9 snaps, I think it was, on Thursday before leaving. And he was a full practice on the first practice of the week, and then DNP yesterday. So it's considered probably load management, but I still just have some concerns about who's going to play. And even if both of them do play, the interior has not been really that good. They've been giving up a lot of pressure as well. So this is going to be an issue against this Lions defense that is getting back some key playmakers in the secondary. They're getting Brian Branch back from suspension. Terrion Arnold returning from the shoulder. He's had some full practices. And, I think that is going to amplify this coverage on the back end, who actually played decently well in their last game without these guys, which was a shock to me, to say the least. And it just doesn't bode well for McCarthy. As you guys just saw, under 160 in both of these games. I know that this isn't a huge sample to say, J.J. McCarthy can't hit this number and he's washed and he's not good enough to bet overs and things like that. It still remains to be seen. We don't have a lot of priors on him yet, but what we do know is that this Detroit defense, they run a ton of man coverage. McCarthy has not really been great against man coverage so far to start the year, hasn't been great against pressure to start the year, and those are two things Detroit does very well. Top 5 in man coverage rate, McCarthy's 33.2, passing grade against man, and then the pressure the pressure issue. Detroit, top 6 in pressure rate. Aiden Hutchinson obviously playing really well. Ali McNeil back. They're getting pressure on the interior now. Muhammad, he's been really well for them. It's really become a complete unit, more than just the singular guy. So I think that this is just going to be a lot of tough sledding for McCarthy. And if they want to really stay in this game, they're going to have to run the ball quite a bit. I think it could get out of hand where he'll have a lot of passing volume. Not sure I'm too afraid of it given sort of what we've seen out of him. Are you guys seeing anything that I might have missed on that one? What are you seeing, Jude? I see you got something.
The only thing, no, I don't hate this play at all. I mean, McCarthy was terrible in his first couple of games. The Lions pass rush has a huge advantage over the Minnesota offensive line. I guess the thing that scares me is the man coverage. I don't see as kind of a benefit in this matchup. I think certainly the state of the Lions secondary, they've done a pretty good job of almost hiding the fact that Terrion Arnold has been one of the worst cornerbacks in the NFL. Nick Robertson's not far behind, and going up against Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, they're going to be aggressively attacking these corners downfield. And sure, if McCarthy was as bad as he was the first couple of weeks, and there's no reason to think not, then this is a pretty good look. I would just be concerned with I anticipate these Vikings receivers to get very much the better of the Lions corners in these man matchups.
Yeah, they look great in week 7 before the bye against the Buccaneers, but it's a different thing to do it against Tez Johnson and Sterling Shepard and Emeka Egbuka, who no one thought he was going to come back.
Playing on a hammy.
Yeah, with that hamstring injury for that game, to do it against Jefferson and Addison, like you said. I think the thing that would concern me the most with this is everything is pointing to the Vikings having to pass the ball a ton. Maybe they just refuse to, and they just run into a very good Lions run defense to try to take the load off of McCarthy. But I'm expecting the Lions to put up a lot of points in this matchup, and it's also a pass funnel defense against Minnesota with the man coverage matchups in theory going in the Vikings' favor. So it's I have more interest in, and I've already bet JJ McCarthy rushing props this week. He put up 25 rushing yards in each of his first 2 games. This is the Lions defense. It's going to get a lot of pressure. I think he's going to be comfortable using his legs. Might even get some design stuff. Saw a little bit of that, I feel in the first 2 weeks. So I have some interest in these lines around 25. I have a 40-plus rushing all prop in.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting one. And like you guys said, a lot of these situations are going to lean towards them needing to pass. I really have some reservations if he's going to be able to do it. It felt like the game was moving way too fast for him early on. It's something that we talked about early on in the season, but for the better part of 7 quarters, he has looked like the worst quarterback in the NFL for most of that. It was really just that fourth quarter against the Bears that he looked like he had anything figured out at all, and it's really been few or far between. But on that, and it's something that we talked about frequently, is that Bears defense was, not good at that point, and still not really that great. So it's one of these things that, like you guys said, I really do think that the wide receivers can get the better. I really just have some reservations if he's going to be able to find them at before this pass rush bears in on him and he starts seeing ghosts at some point. So no, but I definitely agree with what you guys are saying on that regard too. And before we head into our last few our last parlay of the day, because I think we already talked about both of them. We've got to talk about Fabric by Gerber Life. That is definitely a good one, because as parents, we do everything we can to set our kids up for success in the future, academics, team sports, college admissions. But what about getting started financially when they're out on their own? Fabric makes it easy for you to set up an investment account for your child now that grows with them and helps prepare for their financial future. Fabric by Gerber Life was designed by parents for parents to make it easy to plan for and manage your family's financial path. And with a kids investment account by Fabric, you can start investing in your child's future today. While your kids can't invest while they're minors, a UGMA Kids Investment Account allows you to invest on their behalf and gives their investments more time to grow. It's all online, and setting up an account could take just 5 minutes. Get started investing with as little as $1 a day, then manage your child's account and monitor their investments right from your phone. There's no contribution limits, multiple tax advantages, and they're SIPC insured up to $500,000, plus no commission fees and just a low, flat monthly maintenance fee. You can share your child's unique gifting link with your family and your friends, so instead of them gifting things they'll outgrow for birthdays or special occasions, they can help grow your child's investments instead. So join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to help protect their family. Start investing in your child today at meetfabric.com/PFFNFL. That's meetfabric.com/PFFNFL. meetfabric.com/PFFNFL. Portfolios managed by Fort Washington Investment Advisors, Inc. Additional services provided by Apex Clearing Corporation. All investing is subject to risk. Learn more at meetfabric.com. So, boys, we already went through our parlays. Ben, you had your Jackson Dart parlay. The Jackson Dart plus 280, Wandale plus 90, Giants to win minus 7.5. We had my patented Pierce the Veil parlay, Indy, Pittsburgh. I have Indy minus 6.5, Alec Pierce 100 plus receiving and an anytime touchdown. Last but certainly not least, Judah, bring us home here. Tell us what you're seeing in your same game parlay metrics. And also, if anybody does not know, Judah writes a piece every single week over at PFF.com targeting his same game parlays of the week. Go over there, hit him up, check out his work. He's going to make you some money, and he's going to make us a bunch of money right now. Judah, tell us what you're seeing in the same game parlay market.
Yeah, Justin Herbert, 280, under 32.5 attempts, and Kamini Vidal to have 110 rush yards. We got the 75 to 1 on DraftKings. I think the kind of angle here is the Chargers dominating Tennessee. Did not include the spread here just because that is so heavily priced in. We're probably losing a little bit of value here. But this is a Tennessee defense that has been kind of shredded on both sides of the ball. They're allowing a ton of explosive plays, which is obviously important in betting passing yards relative to pass attempts, because you're going to need your quarterback to be extremely efficient. But it's really just saying, Chargers dominate through the first 3 quarters with an explosive passing attack and leaning on Vidal, who is basically the only running back, I think, going to get carries. And this one certainly off of his dominance last week. And just I see this as a spot where the Chargers can put up a ton of points, and the game script kind of going as such that Herbert doesn't get those kind of last 3-4 attempts because the game is so far out of reach. And I think Vidal probably gets those carries. And I think we get a nice little kind of inverse correlation here, which I think is actually probably a little bit more correlated than the DraftKings is given credit for.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely see it. The Titans they're in fire sale mode. It's looking pretty bad. I'm not quite sure why they're not really in a position. I mean, I get it. They're not really going anywhere, but they are not quite in a position to be dealing corners out, and they just continually do it. And this is not going to be the matchup that you don't want your corners to be really lacking, and definitely a hittable number, because what we've seen with Herbert is he's been phenomenal. I carry slight concerns with just the fact of it's something that we saw last week on the Thursday night game where they got up by such a big number and then just ran the ball down their throat and just did not throw, came out in a lot of 21 personnel, and so that is something that's going to be a slight concern for me in that. But I definitely see where you're saying too, is that this is telling the story of that they're going to absolutely blow the doors off of them in the passing game, and they're way more than capable of doing that. Are you seeing sort of the same thing, Ben?
Yeah, I mean, the matchup's great. The separation grades I was talking about with the Raiders, the Titans are worse. Like, this is a very beatable secondary if it all look good. I think my biggest concern is kind of in the same boat as Mason. Like, I'm afraid this super high pass rate over expected team we've seen with the Chargers, like, in a matchup like this specifically, it's going to be, I feel like it could be similar to what we saw last week against Minnesota, where they're much more comfortable going heavy and running the football.
We just need, instead of 25 attempts, we need him to get 29 attempts. Yeah. So this is the game script we're betting on. It's just like a slight modification effectively of last week.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree there. I'm
just burned. I had so much Herbert in that Vikings game, and he had 190 in the first half, and then didn't even clear his normal over. So
yeah, that one hit me too. I thought that was going to be a much more competitive game, and of course they just absolutely blew the doors off of the Vikings in that one, and of course absolutely shattered my hopes of Jordan Mason overs and Justin Herbert overs and everything on that one. So we do have a little bit of time here, you guys. So I do want to get your takes. Are there any other games or markets that you guys are really targeting this week? Anything that you're excited about seeing, or any questions you guys have, even if you're not taking it? Any games or any questions on the slate that you're excited to see?
I mean, we didn't talk about Chiefs-Bills, which I think we're probably the only football podcast in America that didn't do that, and I kind of want to keep it that way. But no, I think this is probably the best the Chiefs' offense has been or since like 2021 days in this Allen Mahomes rivalry, and probably the worst the Bills' defense has been. Not to mention, like, I just think the Chiefs can win in so many ways. I definitely like them. And the other game I'm interested in is Seattle, Washington. And I really, I think in some senses, like, we're learning a lot of valuable information about Jaden Daniels. And like, I think this would be, if he can, given the state of his wide receiver room going up against a very tough Seattle defense, I think him delivering a performance similar to last year's would go a long way in kind of reorienting ourselves to just how good Daniels is. And it's obviously a massive game for them. Falling to 3-6 would be a real problem in the NFC East. And then, like, on the flip side, like, this is a matchup that screams, Seattle should have success, and Sam Darnold should be able to attack and win downfield. That I'm intrigued to see kind of the continuation of Sam Darnold, I guess, while also, like, what is Jaden Daniels going to do against this defense?
Yeah, both of those games I'm kind of interested in just watching. Honestly, I might not necessarily have super big bets on either side. I like Rashee Rice a lot. Everyone likes Rashee Rice, but I think this is a game where you can have really high numbers in terms of receptions and receiving yards. The only other thing I'll add, we already talked about the game a little bit, but I like Brock Bowers this week as well. It seems like he's back. I prefer to take a chance that he's really back, right? And he's not the kind of limited version we saw when he was trying to play through that injury. And this is a matchup against Jacksonville, who has struggled covering tight ends, that I think he can have his success, and his line's around 50 yards. So, like, this is a spot to buy low on Brock Bowers if he is truly back.
And that might end up having to be your prop bet of the week, Ben, because it looks like we're getting some late breaking news here that the Jaguars plan on putting Travis Hunter on the IR.
What? Okay. Well, then Brock Bowers over 50.5 receiving. So let's go.
It looks like maybe knee injuries sustained during Thursday's practice. They'll leave him off the active roster. So it looks like Liam Cohen said that they are looking at putting him on the IR. So that's going to definitely be a blow there for that offense. And, of course, you never have to worry about the player prop market, though, with Ben over here, because Ben has been a hammer. Make sure you guys are following Ben at Ben Linsey _. Is it 2 underscores or is it 1 underscore?
1 underscore.
1 underscore. Ben Linsey _ on Twitter. Also, of course, follow Judah at Throw the Damn Ball. These guys are throwing out some heat on the Twitter every single week, so make sure you guys get in there. That's how you're going to get some degenerate ladders from Ben every single week that we just love. I every morning coming into the office, I love hearing the degenerate ladder that Ben is playing. And of course, make sure you guys go get your subscription of PFF Plus and download the PFF Plus app. That's where you get access to all of the best data that's accessed by all 32 NFL teams, as well as our PFF player props tool. And for a special 25% off, use promo code PFF NFL Show 25. And boys, I think that about does it for us. For Ben Linsey, for Judah Fort Gang, for our producers in the back, Tyler, Quinn, Eli, I'm Mason Cameron. And until next time, you guys, same time, same place, and good luck.